The piggy bank and the dream. Lily's laughter echoed in the kitchen, usually a bright chime that warmed Thomas through. Tonight, it felt like a needle prick. He sat at the table, meticulously organizing a collection of coins, pennies, nickels, dimes, a long-standing ritual he found meditative. "Seriously, Tom?" Lily exclaimed, wiping her damp eyes. "A piggy bank? I thought those went extinct with landlines." The pink ceramic pig, its cheeks painted a vibrant rose, sat innocently among the piles. He'd possessed it since childhood, its chipped surface a silent testament to years of service, holding memories far exceeding the value of its contents. "It's a system," Thomas mumbled, his cheeks warming. He loathed being the subject of Lily's playful derision, especially concerning his finances. She viewed his prudence as a quaint peculiarity, something to tolerate, not understand. A system for what? Stockpiling hard candies or financing a private moon mission? She chuckled, leaning closer to examine the coin slot. Saving for a personal island, or perhaps a gently used dirigible? Thomas sighed, pushing the coinage aside. "It's for, well, a cushion. Honey, it's been pouring for a decade. You've squirreled away enough for Noah's Ark." She playfully mussed his hair, yet a subtle patronizing tone permeated the air. "You ought to invest, Tom. Stocks, bonds, maybe even dabble in crypto, something with a pulse." He knew her logic was sound, but the piggy bank symbolized more than mere savings. It was a tangible link to his past, to a time when hopes felt simpler, more within reach. He recalled saving his allowance as a boy for a crimson bicycle gleaming in Mr. Henderson's shop window. The thrill of each coin's descent, the mounting anticipation, that sensation held immense value. "I'm doing all right," he said, his tone sharper than intended. "I manage just fine." Oblivious to the undercurrent, Lily grabbed a notepad and pencil from the counter. "Speaking of dreams," she said, her eyes gleaming, "I had the most amazing idea today." She began sketching, her hand moving with swift confidence across the paper. A charming cottage materialized rapidly, complete with a steeply pitched roof, a welcoming veranda, and roses framing the entrance. "Willow Creek Cottage," she declared, presenting the drawing. "Isn't it divine? I spotted it in a magazine. It's precisely what I've always yearned for, truly what we require." Thomas stared at the illustration. It possessed undeniable beauty. Yet, it also screamed extravagance. He knew Lily's ideas often came with exorbitant price tags. "It's lovely," he said cautiously. "Lovely? Tom, it's beyond lovely. It's our future home. Imagine waking to birdsong, sipping coffee on the porch, painting immersed in the garden." Her voice drifted, lost in the idyllic vision. He conjured a different picture. The looming mortgage, the relentless property taxes, the constant repairs. The piggy bank suddenly felt diminished, wholly inadequate. "Where is this Willow Creek Cottage located?" he inquired, striving for neutrality. "Somewhere in the country, I think. Maybe upstate. It's secondary. The crux of the matter, this is my dream. This is what I've always wanted." She tapped the sketch with her pencil, her gaze locked onto the cottage. "A haven, a personal sanctuary, a place where I can truly be myself." The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken desires and anxieties. Thomas studied Lily, her face flushed with excitement, her eyes alight with hope. He loved her deeply. He yearned to grant her every desire. But how? He glanced at the piggy bank, its rosy cheeks seeming to mock him. It wasn't sufficient. It could never be sufficient. Not for Willow Creek Cottage. Not for Lily's aspirations. Yet, a flicker ignited within him, a spark of resolve dormant for years. He wouldn't reveal his own worries. He wouldn't douse her enthusiasm with practicality. He would discover a path. He always had. He would economize and scrimp as he had since childhood. He would deny himself and Lily for the sake of this lofty dream. He merely needed a strategy and a dose of his old, stubborn determination. He knew Lily might experience disappointment in the short run, but the long-term results would be entirely worthwhile. He reached for the drawing, tracing the cottage's outline with his fingertip. "It's beautiful, Lilybug," he said, his voice gentler. "Truly it is." He would engineer a solution. He had to. For Lily, for their shared future, for the echo of a boy who once dreamed of a shiny red bicycle, secrets and savings. The bell above the door of Ashton's Reeds chimed, announcing Mrs. Gable's arrival. Thomas straightened from the precarious stack of first editions he was arranging, a faint dusting of aged paper clinging to his sweater. "Good morning, Mrs. Gable. Looking for something specific today?" She smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "Just browsing, Thomas. Though perhaps you have something new in the mystery section? I've read everything Agatha Christie ever wrote twice." Thomas chuckled, already knowing the answer. "I believe we received a shipment of Ellery Queen yesterday. Might be just the thing." He led her towards the back, the scent of old paper and binding glue filling the air. He truly loved this place. It wasn't just a job, it was a haven. And lately, it had become something else, a quiet accomplice in his secret mission. Every sale, every carefully shelved book, every late evening spent cataloging brought him closer to Lily's dream. He worked harder, staying an extra hour most nights, organizing the back room, tasks he'd previously delegated to his part-time help. The extra pay, though modest, was meticulously tracked in a small, worn notebook hidden beneath a stack of invoices. Later that afternoon, the scent of lavender and Lily's perfume, drifted in. He knew she was meeting Maya and Chloe for coffee at the cafe across the street, but the bell above the door hadn't chimed. He peered through the window, seeing her sitting at a table, gesturing animatedly. He strained, trying to make out their words above the afternoon traffic. "It's just completely unattainable," Lily was saying, her voice laced with wistful longing. "Willow Creek Cottage. Did you see the price they're asking? It's insane." Thomas felt a pang. He knew she was talking about the cottage. Maya's voice was clear, even from across the street. "Lily, be realistic. That place is gorgeous, but you and Thomas are just starting out. Maybe in a few years," Chloe chimed in, her voice lighter. "Yeah, and think of the upkeep. Those old places are always falling apart. You'd be spending all your time fixing things." Lily sighed, a dramatic, theatrical sigh that Thomas knew well. I know. It's perfect. The garden, the little stream, the way the light falls in the afternoon, I can just picture myself painting there all day long." He turned away from the window, his resolve hardening. He knew he couldn't tell her about his plan, not yet. He needed to be sure, needed to make it a reality before raising her hopes. He imagined her face, lit up with joy, and the image spurred him on. The next day, during his lunch break, Thomas found himself standing in front of Harborview Realty, the local real estate office. He hadn't been inside a real estate office since he bought his modest condo years ago. He hesitated, smoothing down his tie, which felt suddenly too tight. The window display featured a large, glossy photograph of Willow Creek Cottage, bathed in sunlight. He took a deep breath and pushed open the door. A perky blonde woman with a name tag that read Brenda looked up from her computer, her smile bright and professional. "Welcome to Harborview Realty. How can I help you?" "I'm interested in Willow Creek Cottage," Thomas stammered, feeling suddenly out of his depth. Brenda's smile widened. "Ah, yes, a beautiful property. Are you familiar with it?" "Yes, I am," Thomas said. "I was hoping to get some more information, perhaps a tour?" Brenda consulted her computer. "Let's see. The owners are only showing it by appointment, and they're quite selective. Are you pre-approved for a mortgage?" The question hung in the air, a stark reminder of the financial chasm between Lily's dream and their current reality. Thomas swallowed hard. "Not yet," he admitted. Brenda's smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. "Well, why don't we start with a brochure, and I can give you some information on local lenders. We work with several reputable banks." Thomas took the brochure, the glossy image of the cottage mocking him. As he left the office, the weight of his secret and the daunting task ahead of him settled heavily on his shoulders. He had a long way to go, Willow Creek calling. The shop's entrance chime announced Thomas's return, a bright, almost mocking peal against the worry churning within him. Sunlight poured through the front window, igniting a confetti of dust and sparking against the burnished plate bearing Mrs. Croft's name. Her gaze lifted, a practiced smile painted on her features. "Mr. Ashton, back already? What can I do for you?" He forced down the lump in his throat. "Willow Creek Cottage," he managed, the words laden with yearning. "I'd like to move forward." The smile remained etched on Mrs. Croft's face, yet her eyes remained distant. "Naturally. Have you given the price further thought?" He nodded, the enormity of it a weight on his shoulders. "I have. I wish to initiate the process, if possible." A perfectly sculpted nail tapped a corner of the file resting on her desk. "Very well. A pre-approval from your lender is the first hurdle, a mere formality, you understand. Are you with First National?" Upon Thomas's confirmation, she continued, "Excellent. I'll draft the preliminary documents. Return with your pre-approval, and we can discuss presenting an offer." She passed him a thin folder. Dawn found Thomas across from Mr. Abernathy at First National, a carefully assembled loan application and threadbare savings statements clutched in his hand. The loan officer's tie seemed to be strangling him, perched as it was just below his reddened cheeks. He scrutinized Thomas over half-moon spectacles. "Willow Creek Cottage, eh? Quaint, but a hefty commitment, Mr. Ashton." Thomas offered a shaky nod, summoning a confidence he didn't possess. "I realize that. I've been diligently saving." "Mr. Abernathy rustled the papers, his expression clouding with doubt. "Your work history is stable?" he allowed grudgingly. "However, your resources and the desired loan amount. The differential is significant, Mr. Ashton." Thomas outlined his plans for supplemental income, his pledge to scrimp and save every possible cent. He spoke of Lily, the cottage's undeniable allure, the life he envisioned blooming there. Abernathy remained impassive. "Mr. Ashton," he declared, a note of practiced regret coloring his tone, "I cannot in good conscience approve a loan of this magnitude given your current financial standing. It represents too great a risk. We would require considerably more collateral or a guarantor with substantial assets." The air seemed to compress within the small office. His carefully constructed fantasy threatened to evaporate before his eyes. Mumbling his thanks, Thomas escaped the bank, the folder feeling like a block of lead in his grasp. Back at the bookstore, the familiar aroma of aging paper and glue, usually his solace, offered no comfort. He mechanically shelved volumes, his mind trapped in a loop of Abernathy's pronouncements. He needed a strategy, a means to bridge the chasm of debt. Perhaps selling his cherished record collection, a curated archive painstakingly assembled over years. Or accepting even more hours at the bookstore, even though exhaustion already clung to him like a shroud. He even contemplated selling his grandfather's antique tools. Yet the thought of relinquishing those tangible links to his heritage felt like a betrayal of sorts. Later that afternoon, Mrs. Croft's call shattered the quiet of the bookstore. "Mr. Ashton," her tone was clipped, "I wish to apprise you of the situation regarding Willow Creek Cottage. We've received another indication of interest. A rather aggressive one, I might add." An icy premonition gripped Thomas's heart. Another prospective buyer? Precisely. They possess pre-approved financing and are prepared to submit an offer without delay. A beat of silence pulsed between them. "I am obliged to inform you, the seller, of course, will ultimately decide, but expediency is paramount." Her words lingered, sharp as shards of glass. Another buyer. Someone with deeper reserves, undoubtedly. Someone who wouldn't have to grovel for a loan. The vision of Lily's face, bathed in the warm luminescence of the cottage windows, flared in his mind. He couldn't surrender. He wouldn't. "Thank you, Mrs. Croft," he replied, his voice steadier than his spirit. "I understand. I will be in touch." He replaced the receiver, the metallic echo of the connection severing a bleak counterpoint to the quiet resolve settling within him. He was in for a battle, and he would wage it with everything he had. A father's sacrifice. The bank's verdict lingered like a bitter draught. Rejection. The word reverberated in the stillness of his study, a stark pronouncement thrown against the backdrop of his cherished library. Thomas raked his fingers through thinning strands, the comforting redolence of aged paper offering scant solace. Willow Creek Cottage. More than bricks and mortar, it represented a sanctuary, a future he'd painted for Lily, a promise whispered across the years. His gaze drifted toward the shelves, pausing over his pride and joy, the first editions. Collected over decades, each volume was a carefully curated artifact, a tangible slice of history. He'd lived within their pages, debated their philosophies during countless solitary evenings, their narratives intertwined with his own life's unfolding story. His fingers brushed the ornate lettering of a time-worn Wuthering Heights. He recalled discovering it in a musty York antique shop, a jolt of recognition as he unearthed the gem. He could almost feel Bronte's fervent spirit emanating from the aged pages. The thought of relinquishing them was akin to tearing away pieces of his soul. Yet, Lily's beaming face flickered across his mind, the cottage reflected in her sparkling eyes. The joyous sounds he longed to hear again. He closed his eyes, resolution hardening. The following morning, Thomas carefully swaddled the books in acid-free paper, securing each within protective boxes. Their accumulated weight felt heavier than their mass, a physical manifestation of the sacrifice he faced. He drove to a respected antiquarian bookseller in the neighboring town, a place lauded for its connoisseurship of rare works. Inside, the air buzzed with scholarly hush, layered with the subtle sense of beeswax polish and ancient parchment. Mr. Abernathy, the proprietor, a man whose spectacles perched precariously on his nose, his fingers stained with the testament of ink, greeted him with cordiality. "Thomas, a pleasure. What treasures have you unearthed for me today?" Thomas hesitated, indicating the stacked boxes. "A collection, Mr. Abernathy, of rather considerable merit." Abernathy's eyes widened at the sight of the initial offering, a first edition Pride and Prejudice. He cradled it with reverence, his touch feather-light as he turned the brittle leaves. "Remarkable," he murmured, his voice threaded with awe. For an hour, he pored over each volume, punctuated by soft gasps of astonishment. At last, he looked up, his face etched with both excitement and regret. "Thomas, these are extraordinary, genuinely. I can offer you," he quoted a figure. Less than Thomas had hoped, but exceeding his expectations. "Sufficient." "I accept," he replied, his voice surprisingly firm despite the inner turmoil. Abernathy studied him, a silent question hanging in the air. "Are you certain, Thomas? These are more than just texts. They're an inheritance." "Some inheritances," Thomas offered, managing a wan smile, "are intended to be lived, not merely possessed." The exchange was efficient and discreet. Stepping from the shop, the physical burden had vanished, replaced by a leaden feeling in his chest. Loss, undoubtedly. Yet, surging beneath, a current of determination. He headed directly to Mrs. Croft's real estate office. She offered a polite, yet faintly dismissive smile. "Mr. Ashton, I presume you've rethought your position?" Thomas placed the certified check on her desk. "The deposit," he stated, his voice unwavering, "for Willow Creek Cottage, Mrs." Croft's eyes widened, the condescending smile evaporating. She snatched up the check, scrutinizing it. "Well, I'll be damned," she murmured, a grudging note of respect coloring her tone. "Didn't think you had it in you." Thomas permitted himself a small, satisfied smile. The road stretched ahead, but he'd surmounted the initial obstacle. He envisioned Lily's elation upon hearing the news. "The cottage," he declared, his gaze locking with Mrs. Croft's, "is ours." The silver key. A knot of anticipation tightened in Thomas's gut that birthday morning, mirroring the pre-speech jitters he usually dodged like the plague. He'd been up before dawn, mentally rehearsing the gift's unveiling, fretting over Lily's interpretation. Would she grasp the profound commitment woven into such a simple object? Lily, meanwhile, was a sunbeam of birthday elation. Sizzling blueberry pancakes perfumed the air, a decadent departure from Thomas's standard fare of black coffee and dry toast. She practically skipped into the living room, her auburn tresses a glorious tousled mane, her eyes alight with eagerness. "Morning, birthday girl," Thomas greeted, forcing a somewhat wooden smile. "Morning," she chirped, pilfering a pancake from the stack he presented. "Presents later, yeah? Post-breakfast? Or can I peek at just one? A tiny one?" Her playful lashes fluttered. Thomas chuckled, buoyed by her buoyant spirit. "Patience, Lily Bug. Good things are worth waiting for." He deliberately busied himself buttering toast, the quiet broken only by the scrape of cutlery and Lily's cheerful humming. Post-breakfast, Lily was a coiled spring of excitement as Thomas produced a small, square box cloaked in muted green paper from the mantel. Its plainness was intentional. He wanted the gift itself to resonate. His heart hammered against his ribs as he extended it. Lily attacked the wrapping with unrestrained glee, showering the floor with emerald confetti. Inside, cradled on velvet, lay a silver key, affixed to its ring, a delicate willow leaf charm. Her initial response was bewildered. She lifted the key, turning it over in her palm, brow furrowed in thought. The little charm shimmered in the morning's glow. "A key?" she queried, a hint of deflation coloring her tone. "It's lovely, Thomas, but what does it unlock?" Thomas inhaled deeply. "This was it. It unlocks a dream, Lily, a path to a future, the future you've always wanted." He hesitated, searching for the precise phrase. Eloquence wasn't his forte, but clarity was crucial. He pressed on. "Remember Willow Creek Cottage? Recall how you adored it? How you wished you could call it your own?" Lily's eyes widened, a spark of comprehension igniting within them. "Yes, but—" Her voice trailed off, her gaze fixed once more on the key. "That key," Thomas said, his voice thick with feeling, "is the key to Willow Creek Cottage. I secured it, Lily. It's ours." The ensuing silence was a heavy blanket. Lily stared at the key, then at Thomas, her face a canvas of disbelief and budding joy. Tears gathered in her eyes. You did that?" she breathed, her voice trembling slightly. "But how? I thought, the loan." Thomas simply offered a smile, a genuine, heartfelt expression that illuminated his entire face. He knew the whole story, the late nights, the sacrifices would have to wait. It was his secret, a weight he carried gladly, fueled by his love for her. He merely shrugged, feigning casualness. "Let's just say I managed." Lily launched herself into his arms, enveloping him in a fierce embrace. "Oh, Thomas," she sobbed, "you're the most amazing man. You truly did it. Willow Creek Cottage, it's ours." He held her tight, relishing the warmth of her embrace, the familiar scent of her hair. He had done it. He had made her dream real. Yet, even amidst this jubilant moment, a subtle, nagging question haunted him. What had he actually surrendered? And would Lily ever fully comprehend the immensity of his devotion, the lengths he traveled for her happiness? Lily drew back, her face aglow, her eyes sparkling through her tears. "We must go there. Now. I want to see it. I want to fit the key in the lock." Thomas chuckled, his spirit lighter than it had been in ages. All right, we'll go. But first," he said, pulling her close once more, "happy birthday, my Lilybug." A house for others. The key, cool against Lily's palm, flashed silver under the kitchen's sun-drenched window. A smile bloomed across her face, chasing away the shadows. "Willow Creek Cottage? Ours?" she whispered, her voice catching in her throat. She pinned Thomas with a searching look, half expecting a playful denial. His expression remained earnest, his eyes unwavering. "Yes, Lily," he affirmed gently, his fingers tracing the curve of her jaw. "I made an offer, and it was accepted." The radiant smile wavered, confusion clouding her features. "You bought it? For us?" Her gaze swept over their cramped apartment, a testament to her artistic passions. Canvases leaned against walls, sculptures claimed every available surface. But where will everything go? And a chilling realization dawned in her eyes. "Oh, Thomas, please tell me you didn't." "Didn't what?" he prompted, a slight crease forming on his brow. She recoiled from his touch, stepping back. You didn't buy it for us to actually live in, did you? The air seemed to stagnate. The cheerful sunlight now felt like a glaring spotlight. Thomas sighed, raking his hand through thinning strands. He'd anticipated this, dreaded it, hoping the allure of ownership would eclipse any initial chagrin. Not exactly, he confessed, his tone carefully measured. Lily's face crumpled, her disappointment palpable. Not exactly. What's that supposed to mean? She tossed the key onto the counter, the sharp sound reverberating in the confined space. You bought the house I've mooned over for years? And you didn't even intend for us to live there? How is this supposed to be a positive step? He cringed at her words, the undercurrent of hurt a painful jab. It's not some kind of prank, Lily. I see it as strategic. Strategic? She echoed, her voice gaining volume. Willow Creek Cottage? My sanctuary? It's just an entry on a spreadsheet to you? She began to pace the small kitchen, her agitation visible in every movement. The sharp scent of linseed oil and turpentine hung in the air, a constant reminder of her dreams and aspirations. Thomas ventured a step closer, but she flinched away. Let me explain the logic, he implored. We can't realistically move into Willow Creek Cottage right now, Lily. Not with our current income. The mortgage alone, not to mention regular maintenance, it would drown us. But leasing it, even for a year or two, could yield a sizable return. Lease it? The words were barely audible, tinged with disbelief. To strangers? My dream, invaded by other people's lives, their clutter, their cacophony. Think of it as a temporary launch pad, he countered, injecting forced optimism into his voice. The rental proceeds could fund your return to education, Lily. You could finally complete your degree, study art restoration, refine your sculptural techniques, whatever ignites your passion. And later, when the fiscal ship is steadier, we can make it our permanent residence. It will be even sweeter then, because we'll have earned it. Lily's gaze was sharp, and her expression a tableau of hurt and fury. So, you acquired my dream so that anonymous renters can occupy it while I'm back in the classroom? Is that the master plan, Thomas? To transmute my hopes into columns and rows of financial data? He extended his hand, then hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. I did it because I cherish you, Lily, because I long to give you everything you've ever yearned for. And sometimes, my dear Lily, the swiftest route to achieving a dream isn't always direct or immediate. She crossed her arms, her features hardening. And what about your aspirations, Thomas? Did you even consider those when formulating your investment strategy? Or did you just decide that my desires automatically take precedence? He paused, the question hitting a nerve. He'd made substantial sacrifices, more than she realized, to orchestrate this. But how to convey the quiet fear that gnawed at him, the underlying terror of being unable to secure her future? That's irrelevant, he said softly, his voice constrained. Your contentment is my sole ambition, Lily. It always has been. Yet, as he met her gaze, he caught a glimpse of uncertainty, a shadow of the same disquieting question that had haunted him since he placed the key in her palm. Would she truly comprehend the depth of his devotion? New beginnings. The moving van wheezed to a stop before Willow Creek Cottage, exhaling a cloud of fumes that briefly veiled the freshly painted facade. From across the lane, perched on Farmer McGregor's time-worn stone wall, Lily observed, a half-eaten apple in hand. The driver unfolded himself from the cab, a groan escaping his lips, a sound swallowed by the tranquil morning. His kind eyes were underscored by a weary smile hinting at sleepless nights. Thomas had described him perfectly. Ben Carter. A woman followed, dark hair secured in a severe ponytail. She immediately orchestrated the movers with sharp commands, her gestures precise despite the fatigue etched on her features. Sarah Carter, Lily surmised. Then, a small boy, no more than 6, erupted from the back, clutching a threadbare bear. He dashed toward the cottage, his face radiating unadulterated delight. "Our new house!" he shouted, his voice reedy but clear. A twinge resonated within Lily. It should have been her voice echoing that joy, her feet dancing up the path. The bear wasn't hers, of course, but the pure, unfiltered happiness that should have been. Ben wrestled a cumbersome guitar case from the truck bed, his brow furrowed in concentration. Sarah oversaw the unloading, labeling boxes with bold strokes of a marker. The little boy, lost in his own world, pursued butterflies flitting amidst the riotous growth of the garden. A vignette of domesticity, a tableau of family life, unfolded within the walls of what was meant to be her sanctuary. A surge of conflicting feelings swamped Lily. Sadness, a palpable ache of disappointment, was undeniable. Yet, a tentative curiosity flickered too. She'd pictured anonymous renters, indifferent occupants who would neglect Willow Creek Cottage. But the Carters? They possessed an undeniable warmth. Sarah caught Lily's gaze. Halting her brisk activity, she offered a hesitant smile. Caught off guard, Lily returned a weak version of her own before pivoting away, feigning fascination with a patch of moss clinging to the stone wall. She couldn't bear to witness any more. Discarding the remains of her apple into the field, she ambled back toward the village, her footsteps leaden on the lane. The image of Ben Carter grappling with the guitar case lingered in her mind. Thomas had mentioned he was a musician. Perhaps the cottage would resonate with melodies in the evenings, replacing the silence she had envisioned. Nearing the village pub, the Willow's Rest, she spotted Thomas's car parked nearby. He was likely inside, buried in work emails, pretending everything was all right. She bypassed it. She couldn't face discussing the Carters, Willow Creek Cottage, the cavernous emptiness in her stomach since his strategic plan had been unveiled. Instead, she gravitated towards the creek that graced the cottage with its name. The water chattered over smooth stones, a sound typically soothing. Today, it felt like mockery. She settled onto a fallen log, fixated on the water, her thoughts a churning vortex of resentment and regret. Her father had been the epitome of practicality, a creature of logic. A spreadsheet man, as he proudly declared. He never grasped her artistic inclinations, her spontaneous choices, her aspirations for a life less ordinary. He'd always guided her toward the sensible, the dependable, the financially secure, and now Thomas seemed to be following in his footsteps. He'd acquired her dream, yes, but he'd also commercialized it, transforming it into a business endeavor. He'd stripped away the enchantment, replacing it with profit margins and lease agreements. Intellectually, she understood his motivation. He'd sacrificed something precious to ensure her happiness. But the reality felt far from joyous. It felt like a well-meant, yet fundamentally flawed, attempt to mend something that wasn't broken. Or perhaps, she mused, the flaw resided within her, her unrealistic expectations, her inability to appreciate the sacrifices tendered on her behalf, her perpetual longing for something perpetually out of reach. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting long shadows across the water, Lily shivered, not from the chill, but from a sudden, bone-deep realization. Perhaps Thomas hadn't merely purchased her dream, perhaps he'd bought one for himself, too. A dream of providing stability, of securing their future, of embodying the kind of man he believed she desired. And in her single-minded pursuit of her own contentment, she had utterly neglected his, a helping hand. The hatchback, laden with the Carters' possessions, sagged noticeably as Ben extracted a box overflowing with sheet music. Sarah, perspiration dotting her brow, popped out of the driver's seat, a clipboard clutched like a talisman. Near the riotous rosebushes, Lily watched, a knot of emotions twisting within her. Need help? The question felt stiff, unfamiliar. Sarah's shoulders relaxed. That would be wonderful, thanks. I'm Sarah, and this is Ben. We're, slightly buried. Lily approached, taking a grocery sack heavy with what sounded like tinned goods. Lily Ashton, welcome to Willow Creek Cottage. The words echoed emptily, a greeting learned for a life now distant. Ben's grin flashed, revealing a charmingly crooked smile. Appreciate it, Lily. We're excited to be here, though the sheer volume of things is a bit daunting. He swept a hand at the disorganized scene, a touch of weariness in his expression. As Lily assisted, hauling groceries into the cottage, she observed the well-worn furniture being unloaded. A motley collection of chairs, a table threatening to collapse under its own weight, a faded rug clutched under Ben's arm. Not the trappings of vacationers, but the tokens of a restart. Inside, the cottage felt different, cozier perhaps. Stripped of the opulent visions she'd conjured, the imagined tapestries and overflowing shelves, it was simply a shell, waiting to be inhabited. Sarah, ever efficient, was already choreographing the placement of boxes. "So," Lily began, setting the bag down, "what drew you to Willow Creek?" Sarah sighed, pushing stray strands of hair from her face. "Well, Ben's a musician, chasing his dream. The city was crushing us with its costs. This place cropped up online. A chance to breathe, you know? Some peace while he works on his music." Ben, wrestling a bulky amplifier through the doorway, paused, grunting slightly. "Yeah," he managed, voice tight. "The urban grind was getting to us. Too much clamor, too much everything. Here, I might actually hear myself think straight." An unexpected wave of empathy washed over Lily. This wasn't some wealthy couple seeking a fleeting escape. They were strivers, chasing aspirations, mirroring her own past. "What sort of music do you play?" she asked Ben. "All kinds," he replied, finally maneuvering the amplifier inside. "Mostly jazz, though. I'm hoping to snag some gigs at the local pubs, maybe even the farmer's market." "The farmer's market is delightful," Lily offered, a genuine smile flickering across her face. "Live music every Saturday, you should definitely check it out." At the edge of the property, near the ancient oak, Lily noticed Thomas observing them. He was too far to overhear, but the concern etched on his features seemed to soften, giving way to something akin to optimism. Inside, Sarah was unpacking a box of photographs. Lily's gaze fell on a picture of a kind-faced elderly woman. "Is that your grandmother?" she inquired. Sarah nodded, a tremor in her voice. "She passed last year. She always championed Ben's music. This cottage, it feels like the sort of place she would have adored." A pang of remorse tightened Lily's chest. These weren't invaders trampling on her dream. They were simply people burdened by their own hopes, dreams, and griefs, seeking solace in a world that felt, at times, insurmountable. "Well," Lily said, forcing an upbeat tone, "I should let you unpack, but if you require anything at all, please don't hesitate. I'm just down the lane." "Thank you, Lily," Sarah responded, her eyes reflecting genuine appreciation. "You've been a godsend." As Lily returned towards her own house, she glanced back at Thomas. He offered a hesitant, almost bashful smile, not triumphant, not smug, but gentle, as if to say, perhaps it's not so dire after all. She wasn't ready to concede the point entirely. But as she watched Ben Carter unpack his saxophone, the burnished brass reflecting the fading light, she felt a nascent sensation she hadn't experienced in days, a faint ember of anticipation. Perhaps Willow Creek Cottage still held the potential for joy, even if different from her original vision. Perhaps sharing it wasn't such a great sacrifice after all. Gratitude and understanding. The next morning arrived, a symphony of sunshine and cool air bathing the valley in a bright, optimistic light. Lily, after a restless night battling her inner turmoil, felt an undeniable pull towards the cottage. Officially, she was just checking to be sure everything was satisfactory, but truthfully, she yearned to reconnect with Ben and Sarah. She discovered Sarah tending the garden, her motions precise as a surgeon's, coaxing life from the soil. On the porch, Ben plucked a gentle tune from his guitar, notes that pirouetted on the fresh air. His face lit up as he noticed her. "Lily, good morning. Sarah's on a mission to turn this place into a floral paradise. She swears it's restorative." Sarah glanced up, swiping her forehead with a dirt-streaked hand. "It is. Besides, I despise weeds, such blatant disregard for order." A genuine chuckle escaped Lily, a sound that surprised even her. "I understand completely. So, is everything all right? Are you both settling in well?" "Beyond all right," Ben responded, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "This place hums with good energy, a font of creativity. I've already sketched out half a song." He offered a short progression of chords. a hopeful, vibrant melody that stirred something within Lily. Sarah approached, concealing something. "We wanted to offer our thanks, Lily, for entrusting us with this haven." She extended her hands, revealing a meticulously crafted wooden birdhouse. Fashioned like a miniature replica of Willow Creek Cottage, it boasted tiny painted windows and a dainty swing set. Lily drew in a sharp breath. "Sarah, this is exquisite! You two made this?" A faint blush colored Sarah's cheeks. "Ben did most of the woodwork. I handled the painting. We find solace in handcrafted things." Ben flashed a wide smile. "Keeps the madness at bay, and hopefully entices a feathered family." Lily traced the polished surface. The artistry was remarkable, each feature rendered with loving care. It was a concrete token of appreciation, a heartfelt offering that eclipsed any monetary exchange. I'm speechless," Lily whispered, her throat constricting. "It's the kindest gift I've ever been given." She imagined it adorning the garden, a miniature reflection of her aspirations, now embodying something more profound. A symbol of renewal, fresh starts, and the unanticipated fulfillment that arose from shared treasures. Later, perched on the porch swing, watching the sun bleed across the horizon, she observed Mrs. Blation's .pasted.god.popple.com. Henderson ambling by. Her arms cradled a basket of fragrant, freshly baked bread, its warmth evident from the scent. Lily understood its destination implicitly, a welcome gesture for the Carters. Her father's words surfaced in her memory, clear as if spoken yesterday. "Lilybug, often the greatest joys come not from what you receive, but what you bestow." She had dismissed them as trite sentiments, yet now, observing the radiant glow emanating from the cottage windows, a dawning comprehension bloomed. She recalled Ben's music, its optimistic cadence resounding across the valley. She pictured Sarah's diligent cultivation, breathing vitality and structure into the forgotten flower beds. She envisioned Mrs. Henderson's bread, a simple act of generosity that spoke volumes. Willow Creek Cottage transcended a mere aspiration. It was a conduit for optimism, restoration, and new beginnings. And perhaps her father had been correct all along. Perhaps the true worth of the cottage lay not in the rental income, but in the beneficial influence it exerted on the lives it touched. A subtle transformation occurred within Lily, a release of her bitterness, a spark of insight. It wasn't solely her ambition any longer. It was a communal haven, a sanctuary where others could discover peace and inspiration. And, conceivably, in sharing it, she might uncover something she hadn't realized she craved. Willow Creek's legacy. The sun radiated heat through Lily's black gown as she navigated the throng on the manicured lawn. A black-robed multitude swayed around her. The crisp fragrance of mown grass mingled with the opulent bouquet of floral displays adorning the platform. Graduation day had arrived. A whirlwind of lectures, bleary-eyed study sessions, and the hushed stillness of the library comprised the past 4 years, all underpinned by Willow Creek Cottage. She located Thomas near the periphery, his lined face etched with a proud grin. Amidst the sea of youthful faces, he seemed a touch out of place, yet his presence offered a reassuring solidity amid the day's swirling emotions. He caught her gaze and offered a subtle wave, a gesture pregnant with unspoken sentiment. After the ceremony, amidst a torrent of embraces and well wishes, Lily worked her way toward him. "Dad!" she cried, enfolding him in a hug. The coarse texture of his suit jacket grazed her cheek, a familiar sensation prompting a rush of fondness. "You did it, Lilybug," he said, his voice thick with emotion. The antiquated endearment, dormant since her childhood, resonated deeply within her. She drew back, scrutinizing his expression. "We did it, Dad. I couldn't have managed without you." He smoothed a stray lock of hair from her face. "All I did was provide an opening. You supplied the dedication." "The opening was monumental," she countered. "No student loans. Imagine. I can begin my life unburdened by debt. That's everything." The magnitude of his sacrifice weighed on her, not as a shackle, but as a profound demonstration of love. The cottage, once a source of friction, had become the very cornerstone of her future. More than just monetary relief, it symbolized his unwavering faith in her, the bedrock that allowed her to chase her aspirations untroubled by financial anxieties. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice catching. "Thank you for everything." He squeezed her hand. "There's no need for thanks, Lily. You make me proud every single day." As the graduation festivities mellowed into the late afternoon, Lily suggested a drive to Willow Creek Cottage. The sky bled orange and rose as they approached the familiar entrance. Bathed in the gloaming, its whitewashed facade shimmered. Lily exited the car, inhaling the redolence of pine and dewy earth. It was an aroma of contentment, a reminder of the tranquility she had discovered within its walls. The birdhouse, still suspended from the eaves, caught her eye, weathered yet steadfast. Thomas joined her, leaning against the gate, his gaze fixed on the dwelling. They stood in contemplative silence, punctuated only by the gentle susurrus of leaves. "Ben and Sarah are still there, aren't they?" Lily inquired, breaking the quietude. Thomas confirmed with a nod. "Renewed their lease last month, happy as can be." "Good," Lily replied, a genuine smile illuminating her features. She reflected on the birdhouse, the joy it embodied, the creative spirit nurtured within those confines. It transcended mere rental property. It was a sanctuary. "Now I understand," she voiced softly, turning to face her father. "Now I grasp your motivations." He arched a brow, questioning. "It wasn't solely about finances, was it?" she pressed. "It was about offering something, a haven for creativity, for solace, for simply existing. You sought to share this place's charm." He shifted, averting his gaze. "I simply wanted to ensure your security, Lilybug." "I know that, Dad, but it runs deeper. You recognize something in this place, something I initially missed, a capacity for benevolence." He looked up, their eyes meeting. A spark of mutual understanding passed between them. "And you were right," Lily declared, her voice ringing with certainty. "Willow Creek Cottage. It's more than just a dream, it's an enduring gift." She moved toward the cottage, her hand tracing the aged wooden fence. She could almost conjure the sounds of children's mirth, the melody of a guitar, the hushed cadence of conversations. It was a dwelling permeated with vitality, affection, and echoes of countless personal narratives. She turned back to Thomas, her heart overflowing with gratitude and clarity. Silhouetted against the descending sun, he stood resolute. He had bestowed upon her more than just a debt-free education. He had bequeathed a purpose, a connection to something far greater than herself. He had bequeathed Willow Creek's gift.